I'd like to call the meeting to order. If we can stand for the pledge, please.
The flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kim, are you all set with roll call?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the agenda for the October 17th, 2022 regular Board of Education meeting. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Tony first, Shelley second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We're going to move on to the Board of Education Spotlight. And this evening, the Board of Education would like to recognize and honor students and their accomplishments that occurred over the last week and other upcoming events in each of the school buildings. And we have 8 buildings and we have 7 board members here right now. So we're gonna take our turns though. Whoever has Baker, you can start first.
I've got Baker High School, who recently announced their top 13 students, which is referred to as the Baker Dozen, for the class of 2023. So we'd like to congratulate those students. They are Lauren Gaskin, Evan Kinville, Aiden Delaney, Gordon Flood, Reagan Doan, Ryan Quinn, Jillian Parker, Owen Penhow, Aaron Hansen, Julia Quinn, Elijah Bettinger, Sasha Daly, and Caleb Way. So it's a significant accomplishment for those students to be top of their class. So sincere congratulations to those students. Also at Baker, we'd like to recognize the boys varsity golf and girls varsity tennis, who won their Section 3 championships. And in girls varsity tennis, Hannah Gold and Lainey Nesbitt both won Sectional A doubles championship on Friday. Field hockey and boys soccer teams also competed in sectionals. Senior Carly Desmond of the cross team, the girls lacrosse team, played in the U18 USA Select Team this past weekend. So, and that top team won the Brogan Cup. So, congratulations to all those students as well who had high accomplishments in athletics.
At Durgee High School, the Beeville esports team had a strong showing at the Elite Cup at the Retro Game Con on Saturday down at the On Center. Bees came home with both the first and second place trophies. Congrats to the first place team of AJ Cardinal and Rocky Hanover, and second place team of Brady Claps and Noah Claps. Durgee Orchestra was recently selected to play at the Festival of Trees and Lights at the Everson in Syracuse. The performance will take place on December 14th of this year.
I have Ray. Ray Middle School sponsored their first dance this past Friday since prior to the pandemic. It was sponsored by the PTA. I did see a lot of posts and videos over the weekend, and the kids looked like they had a fantastic time. The theme of the dance was Ready, Set, Flow, so they were dressed and worn with glow sticks and necklaces, so it was a great time for all. There's an author, Dusty Bowling, who's planning to visit Ray Middle School next month. Dusty Bowling is a best-selling and award-winning author of Life of a Cactus, The Canyon's Edge, and Across the Desert, among other books for young readers. She'll be at the school on November 18th.
Good evening, everyone. I have Eldon Elementary School, Kuya. Eldon Elementary PTA purchased 30 walkie-talkies, which will be put in each classroom. The walkie-talkies were purchased for money raised in the Raise Craze Walkathon fundraiser that was held last spring. Additionally, on September 30th, students and staff at Eldon supported Childhood Cancer Awareness Month by donating $1 to wear their pajamas to school, which we all should at least participate at least once. And finally, the school was able to raise $613. So thank you, Ellen.
I have McNamara for Wayne, who's attending our NISBA annual conference this evening. The McNamara Fun Run was held, is being held tomorrow. The PTA event included a fundraising incentive of getting Principal Holmeyer slimed if a total of $7,000 was raised, in which they did. So they well exceeded that goal, and Principal Holmeyer will be slimed on October 20th. Looking forward to those pictures. And the popular books and basketball event will return next month. And the event, which will be held on November 14th, features a basketball game between staff and parents of McNamara.
I have the Palmer Penguins at Palmer Elementary School. And Palmer Elementary School hosted a special persons breakfast on Wednesday and Thursday. So they were able to invite any special person they wanted to, parents, grandparents, relatives, somebody special to them, to join them for breakfast at the school. And more than 700 people attended this 2-day event. So it was a big success. The Palmer students have also raised $15,000 in the PTA's Fun Run fundraiser. They won the chance to throw a pie at Mr. Ewing, and the top earning classroom is going to get to pie Mr. Ewing during an assembly on October 28th.
I have Reynolds Elementary. Today their school launched a kindness campaign. Students can earn coupons in the hall, lunchroom, or on the bus when they are caught being kind. Kindness bingo was also launched today. Each class has one bingo card, and they must work together to perform acts of kindness on the board. Staff are also taking part in this game, where they have their own kindness bingo with kindness tasks of their own. So congratulations and good luck to all the staff and students. Also at Reynolds, the students reached their fundraising goal for the PTA's annual fun run, and they got to sign Mr. Langstaff and Ms. Eschman on September 29th. And there are photos on our website, so check it out. It looks like a lot of fun.
And I have Van Buren Elementary School, and they will be welcoming more than 150 people on Tuesday and Wednesday into their building for their special person's breakfast. And also, fun running must be the themes for all the fundraisers this year. Principal Corona was made into a human burrito on Friday after students raised more than $12,000 in fun run donations, and those pictures are also on the website as well. So it sounds like everyone's pretty active and doing a lot of fun things, and we are more than back to normal again. So this is fantastic. Thank you, everyone. Next up on the agenda, we have correspondence, board activities, and committee reports. And on October 10th, we had a special Board of Education meeting where we went into executive session for a personnel issue. And then on October 12th, we had a joint PTA meeting. Joe?
For the joint PTA meeting, it's the first meeting of the year. Kim, Dave, myself, and Tiffany were there welcoming the PTA members. The items on the agenda were a discussion and a reminder of the Lunch and Learn, which will be this Thursday, October 20th at noon. And that Lunch and Learn will focus on curriculum instruction as well as technology and athletics. During the conversation, we also talked about district fundraising as well as the PTA's internal communications, supply kits being offered within the buildings, and then during our roundtable discussion, we decided to add on the topic for future committee meetings the idea of school safety, and so they'll be getting an update from the cabinet regarding school safety each of the meetings moving forward.
Thank you. And this evening, right now, we're missing Wayne Davison, one of our board members. He is participating in the New York State School Board Association annual business meeting, and hopefully he'll be here a lot sooner than Shelley last year when she represented Baldwinsville. We'll be waiting to get the report from him. And we had also a facilities committee meeting prior to the regular meeting tonight. Someone from the committee can report out, please.
Yeah, we can, so Sam, Matt and I attended the meeting tonight. I'm gonna quickly go through the slides so you can see kind of what we have coming up for this year's capital project vote in May. Some good progress was made since last time, and what we first went through was some graphics that better illustrate the project. So as you're seeing these, the intent is to put these out in the next hive for the community to see what we got planned here. So if you do have any suggestions or something isn't quite clear, there will be a lot of words around this in the document that's going to be sent out. So you just see some brief statements here, but there will be more explanation there. So as we talked about last time, here you can see the pool relocating from its current position to basically what they call the small gym area, and we'll stay within the profile of that, but completely renovate that space. 6-lane with diving. A lot of the inputs came from people in that area, so a lot of good stuff there coming along. And I was told during the meeting it's a 50-meter pool instead of a 25, so I know swimming people are looking forward to that. And we're basically at the end of life on the old pool also. By moving that or removing the old pool though, that allows us to expand the gymnasium. So think of that gym now and double it in size, and we have a lot more flexibility. So that'll basically push out over the existing pool area and give us a lot more space and a lot more opportunity. And then in conjunction with that, at Baker, we are also talking about renovating all the science spaces to modernize all those areas. If you've been through there in a while, hasn't been a lot of change up there in a while, so completely renovating those spaces and making them into modern science spaces. A couple little things you see on there, adding a new entrance. Most of you are familiar with that smaller entrance near the where it says pool relo or the small gym. Moving that and making a more, I say, prominent athletic entry where our athletic Hall of Fame type things, trophies, those kind of things can be displayed as you walk in. So that's the scope for Baker. Some site project scope here. Hopefully this better illustrates from last time we showed. We cleaned this up and are only showing now what's going to be in the scope of the new project. So starting with A, getting a better traffic flow pattern onto campus for primarily the high school there, so a new parent drop-off area and some access from, is that Oswego Street up there? Yeah, Oswego Street up there at the top, and making a loop through so that we can keep a lot of that traffic out of the same area as the buses, and then exiting out the normal exit there. So that should clean up a lot of the some of the traffic that we got from our traffic study. In the center there, making what's currently a baseball field and a practice field, kind of making that all one into a new turf multi-use field. So it's big enough there, you can see it's baseball down in the bottom left corner and softball in the top right. So bringing softball back on the main campus. And it's big enough so you can actually play 2 simultaneous games there. They will have lights, and then if you look close enough, which you may have to wait till the print version comes out, but there are lines there for almost every sport. The band can use that when it's not in use by other sporting. So it gives us another opportunity to have a large turf area, which obviously turf in this region is nice because we can get started with sports much earlier and last much longer in the fall and get started much earlier in the spring. So, and then the other portion here on C is getting additional parking over to Durgee by request. There's not much parking over there, and that kind of allows for both, for events plus for daily in and out for parking down there. So that would be the scope for the campus. And then taking advantage of the project here, everything lines up with our max cost allowances at the building and optimizing when our debt falls off to make sure that we keep that steady so that it's a minimal impact to the taxpayers of Baldwinsville. So that's how these got aligned, and we'll get to the bigger picture in a minute. But the rest of the project here at Ray is updating that whole, I'd say, right side of the building. Enhancements to the technology, music, art, all that area, locker room you can see. And then on the left side, you can see it's shaded different. The changes won't be as won't be as large over there, but it will be, you know, infrastructure upgrades, flooring, things like that, just to modernize that side of the building. So we really see the biggest impact over on the right side there. Then there's some small things, Eldon and Dergy. We did talk about some options there because we do have a Dergy project, which I forgot to mention in the beginning. The Dergy designs are underway from our last year's capital project, and they're expecting to submit those to SED for approval by May. So still lots of work with the teachers and the administration over at Dergy to really optimize the space and determine exactly the layout. But that project we're expecting to submit in May. So what we just ran through here is what we're anticipating to put out to the voters in May for vote. We have so the other thing we talked about really was the long-range plan. If you go down a slide, so project one is the Dergy that got approved last year, and now last school year I should say, it was this calendar year, but in May we were fortunate enough to approve project one, which is the renovations to Dergy. Project two, which I just ran through, which would be the Baker and Ray and athletic fields. We would put that out for vote in May, and then we kind of discussed at the end of the meeting how to either refresh or revamp what we call the Funding the Future Committee from several years ago. Lots of good ideas came out of it, but we're also about 5 years separated from it. And it was pointed out that these three follow-on projects, project 3, 4, and 5, they're shaped right now by what we learned during the first strategic planning, Funding the Future, where we were doing some restructuring to the elementary schools, potentially combining some elementary schools, but none of that's set in stone. We also talked about, when we first put out the Dergy project, there was some discussion about moving grades around, so making Dergy a 7, 8, 9 building, which would require an expansion. Because of price, we lowered that, or took that out of project one, but if the Funding the Future committee believes those are still the paths to go, that would be the scope of project 4. Again, we have to get that committee back together and make sure we're still kind of on that track. But the nice thing about packaging 3, 4, and 5 is those are all interdependent. So I know it's been talked at the board meetings in the past that doing a package project like that will keep those all in one complete train, because 3 requires 4, 4 requires 5, they're all in a package. So we were looking at ways to structure a project where we have one vote in 2026, but we're only moving ahead right away with project 3. And then as our debt falls off and the funding gets all worked out, we continue those as basically continuous projects over the next roughly 10 years, because I think project 5 ends in roughly the 2035 timeframe, so we're a ways out there. But we agreed that we would, or as we left the meeting, we talked about starting up the Funding the Future in the spring, well, after the new year. So I said spring, but we really meant second semester. So in that time frame, so by the end of the school year, we could possibly have a path forward that we want to start moving ahead for a 2026 vote. Once we get that data of where we want to head with grade structures and school structure and all that, then there's a ton of work to get to that point. I got everything. You guys, anything to add to that? Okay. I think really, if there's anything you see here that you think should be clarified for the communication out to the public, we'd love to hear those comments. And then if you have any thoughts on restarting the Funding the Future, we meet again on November 21st as a committee, and we'd like to give direction to our folks to start up that process again. So.
Thank you, guys.
All right, also on this section are all the upcoming events and meetings that we have up through Veterans Day on November 11th, so everyone can take a look at that and get those dates in your calendars. Next up on the agenda is a student board report, so Azan's going to share what's happening.
Good evening, everyone. There's kind of a lot, which if you're asking me is a good thing, because students do be doing good things. You guys already talked a little bit about sports, but just to clarify, I suppose. Girls tennis won sectionals for the first time ever, I believe. I have friends with quite a few girls on that team, and they're all extremely proud of themselves, as they should be. That's a huge accomplishment, and yeah, I mean, it's nice to hear. I said in the beginning of the year I was looking forward to reporting on the things that the athletics do, and that's definitely one of the things. And going along with them, boys golf also won their sectionals, as was previously mentioned. Moving along, last Friday, the pep rally, Baker held a pep rally, which I talked about at the last board meeting. Individual class councils had been planning for a while, as well as our student council, to make sure that there was some huge class engagement. I would say, any of you that saw any pictures of it anywhere, there was definitely class engagement. They always do like a dance-off sort of kind of thing. There was a pie eating contest, if you want to actually call it eating pie. It was fun. The kids always enjoy that. And then the marching band, per usual, put on a show, and it was a fantastic show. Going along with that, at the last board meeting, I think it was, Durgee's administration presented their strategic plan. And I voiced my opinions as being a student that went to Durgee before, that it seemed like they were doing a lot of great things. It seemed like especially their student engagement was going up. Mr. Freyer and I ended up getting, the lead admin at Durgee ended up getting in communication with me, and I got the opportunity to go down to Durgee last Thursday to see how their B time was going. B time, you're all aware, it's just at the end of the day the students have kind of a study, like, okay, so from what I gathered is that at the end of the day, students have basically a study hall where they're able to go and visit teachers that they might need extra help with. I was there during that B time, stopped and talked to some of the students and some old teachers that I had about their general thoughts on it. Kids seem pretty happy about it. It's nice, especially, I mean, we do a similar thing at Baker, just to have extra time in the day to be able to either, if you don't have homework, get away from the school day and just unwind or meet with teachers. I know the teachers also liked it, and I remember being at Durgee Link, which was the system that they had in place before, was kind of failing. So this was just, it was nice to see. In going along with in-school functions, coming up, there's some field trips. I personally am in AP Biology. AP Biology has planned a field trip to SU this Friday. There's, I think, 6 different groups that students could be a part of, ranging from neuroscience labs to ecology labs. And I'm definitely looking forward. It's the first time I've been on a field trip, and I feel like, since elementary school. So it'll be kind of nice to get out of school for the day, 1, and then 2, SU's got a lot of good things going forward. I know Mrs. Heaton, the AP biology teacher, has talked extremely highly about it, so that'll be exciting. Another field trip, if you want to call it, there's a group of students going to a manufacturing plant at Cayuga Community College, and then there's a group of students going to Drivers Village for construction day. I'm a senior, so it's that time of year where college applications are becoming a thing, and then if you're not planning on attending college, other things that you might be doing, such as the military or going right into the labor field. Students have begun meeting with their guidance counselors, and I'd say that's definitely a process that we're all starting to understand. Intimidating, sure, but I'd say most kids are making progress. Progress reports came out last Friday, so we're officially at least 5 weeks in. Honestly, it seemed like the 5 weeks went by a lot faster and a lot more positive than I think a lot of us were expecting, which was nice to hear. And then kind of just to wrap things up, Edge Federal Credit Union has a partnership with Baldwinsville, and Mrs. Sacco just wanted me to report a few things to the board about how that's going. So she says that Edge is fully back and that we're open in the main lobby near the cafeteria on Mondays and Tuesdays, so students have the opportunity to go in and meet with her about banking stuff. It was reopened this September, and there's been 22 new Eagle-specific accounts and 1 new. There's been 22 new accounts created. They currently have over 500 accounts that Edge manages through Baldwinsville. There are 6 students who are helping to run Edge. Again, pretty big engagements, that's nice to hear. Scholarship applications for 4th, 8th, and 12th graders are rolling out in November, and they're going to be provided on the website and provided to counselors. Mrs. Titus runs a few of our business classes at Baker, and Edge is going to be teaming up with Mrs. Titus's marketing classes to provide school marketing promotions. And then I'm providing some updates on those at upcoming board meetings. And then just as a little bit of background information, Edge was founded by teachers of Baldwinsville, and Edge Federal Credit Union's mission is to educate by providing educational opportunities alongside traditional banking products and services. That was kind of a lot all at once, but basically kids are moving forward, good things are happening again. So.
Thank you, Yvonne. That was really thorough, and we appreciate hearing all the different things going on, all the things that we wouldn't, unless we had students involved in those things, understanding all the amazing things that are happening. Thank you. Next on the agenda is public participation. Kim, are there any speakers?
No, there's not.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda. Resolved that the Board of Education approve the consent agenda pursuant to attached. Can I have a motion, please? Jeff
Second.
first, Tanya second. Any questions? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next up on the agenda is the leadership report, so I'll hand this over to Mr. DeBarber.
We're very excited this evening to first start off with Ray Middle School. Mrs. Morgan, our building principal, and her team will be on their way up here to present their strategic action plan.
Good evening, everyone. So we're here tonight to talk about not only our goals from last year, but our goals for this upcoming school year. With me tonight, I'm Christina Morgan, the building principal. I have Nancy Lindsay, a 7th grade special education teacher, Sherelle Morrison, a 6th grade ELA math teacher, and Megan Wrench, a 6th grade special education teacher, as well as other members of our team here in the audience. So last year, 2 of our goals centered around a 5% increase in our STAR ELA and math. As you can see, we made some growth throughout the winter months, but then for whatever reason, come springtime, we didn't hit our overall 5% goal. With that being said, though, I would like to note that it doesn't mean our students didn't grow. Our students did grow an entire year's growth because STAR looks at where they were in the beginning of 6th grade, for example, to where they are in the end of 6th grade. So most of our students did show a year's worth of growth, but we weren't able to close the already pre-existing gap. So that's something that you're going to see us continue to work on this year with some more additional action steps. And goal number 3 was using the Grow the Green protocol. We wanted to increase the number of students in the typical and/or strength areas by at least 5% as measured by BIMUS. So again, in this area, we weren't able to hit that 5% mark. We did see growth in different subcategories here for grade 6, and then on the next slide, you can see some of the subcategories on grade 7. In reflecting on that, we sat with the team this summer and this fall and kind of thought about maybe why we didn't see all the growth we had initially hoped for, and we discovered some obstacles that we'd like to address this year. So you'll see in our presentation tonight some of our obstacles we believe that got in the way was our chronic absenteeism was extremely high last year, and we don't want it to be that high, as well as our overall referral rate for the building was higher than usual. So in order to see growth in these other areas, I think we need to target those other areas specifically to increase student academic time.
So I just turn this on, sorry. So in reference to our first building goal, we're looking at a minimum of 5% increase as measured on the STAR for both ELA and math. And so a lot of the things that we have in place or had in place, we still have. We're continuing with Words Their Way for our 6th grade students. We have Wilson reading available for students in need of a additional spelling and phonics program. We have continued RTI services, and you'll hear a little bit more about how we are assessing them and addressing that. Yes, thank you. We have a building-wide support system for Tier 1, and one of those things is that it's at the bottom. Our 6th grade meets weekly for our professional learning communities. So there's one for ELA, Math, Science, and Social Studies. And in those weekly meetings, we're looking at a lot of our curriculum and our assessments and looking at our STAR data and trying to figure out how our units are aligning and where we can do a little bit better. And, we have our quarterly data meetings, and we're still using eDoctrina. And the big one that we are hoping is really going to make some changes is the first one where it says student goal setting and advisory. Advisory is something that we're starting this year. We're meeting with our group of students that we've chosen, and we're meeting with them every other Wednesday. And we're looking at some of those SEL goals. We're looking at addressing their self-awareness, their self-management, their responsibility, their engagement with groups, the impact they have on their community. And we're hoping at our advisory this week, they're going to set not only a long-term goal, but a few short-term goals. And so as we meet with our students every other Wednesday, we'll be able to kind of tie all that back in. Are you coming to school? What are you doing to meet your goals? And they're not always academic goals. Some of them are going to have some personal goals as well, but we're hoping that's going to help them, academically and personally, and get them to school and get them more engaged and see more growth.
So to go along with increasing student engagement, we really want to decrease chronic absenteeism, which is defined as 10% of absences or more. So we're hoping to see at least a 5% decrease in the students who are chronically absent.
Our third goal for the building is by June of 2023, we'll see an increase in positive student interactions with other students and staff, as measured by a minimum of 10% decrease in office level referrals. As you can see, in September last year, we had 54 office level referrals, and we're already, for September, we only had 35. So we're already on the right track for decreasing our office level referrals. Then some action steps for goal number 2 and number 3. So we're going to continue to use the BIMAS survey for all students and the Grow the Green protocols to continue strengthening those areas of behavioral, academic, and social and emotional function. And then we are doing restorative practices for professional development for all staff, which is run by teachers that are specifically trained in this. And this is every other week in our teachers' team planning. Then we have 10 staff members that continue to participate in coaching with Dr. Holly. And just recently we started a Dr. Holly binder study on the culturally responsive teaching and learning for teachers and other staff. And then, as Sherelle mentioned, we have the bi-weekly student advisory with the SEL lessons that's created by teachers with the SEL coach the first Wednesday of every month. And that's using the New York State SEL benchmarks. And then the second one, which is starting this Wednesday, as Sherelle mentioned, is the academic goal setting. And what's great is the timing is we can use the 5-week reports to help us make those goals in for the marking period. And then we're going to continue the positivity project in addition to streamlining the instructional support team process with weekly meetings. Additional support from guidance counselors, school psychologists, social workers, and the resource officer and administration. And we have a variety of new school enrichment and club opportunities this year. I'm doing Spanish club. So, and then we're collaborating with Access as well as a Promise Zone specialist, some more school-based mental health support. And then we're continuing to grow our building-based diversity, equity, and inclusion committee. And we have the amazing emotional support animal, Owen, a great yellow lab, who doesn't just stay in our ELA teacher's room, but he's throughout the whole building for students that need that extra support or just that extra boost of positivity throughout the day.
Any questions?
I do. I do, and thank you for the presentation. So, thinking about the fact that certain goals weren't met, you did indicate that there was some growth. I wonder in the future we could see those numbers, just to show that growth, not only to the board, but also to the community.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the growth wasn't necessarily STAR related, so we also monitor student growth in other ways through common assessments that are uploaded into a system called eDoctrina, and as well as our math and RTI teachers use a variety of assessments to track student growth. So you may not necessarily, say a student was in the 6th percentile for STAR, they may have increased to the 13th percentile for STAR, but that wouldn't be enough to move them to the next level. So the individual student growth is there and it does exist. It's just when they're not moving level to level, you can't see it as clearly.
I appreciate that. I have no question, is that okay? It was mentioned that there were some action steps that will be continued. So my wondering is, what systems do you have in place, especially when you're not meeting the goal? You know, when you look at some of these action steps, you know, what are you doing to monitor or reevaluate some of those action steps that may not be contributing to students' overall performance?
Yeah, so our support staff team meets bi-weekly, and one of the things we're constantly looking at is student data in terms of mental health and the resources that they need. So I think we had a lot of great steps in place last year, and we don't want to throw those away because a lot of our steps or additional supports were in the area of mental health. So I think, you know, moving forward, we're going to continue to monitor our referral data more closely. We've already begun addressing chronic absenteeism because unfortunately, even this early on into the school year, there's steps that we're needing to take, and we're meeting with families and already addressing that. And I think by addressing the chronic absenteeism and the referral rate, the reason we chose those is because both of those things indicate kids aren't in class, and kids can't learn if we're not in class. So I think by tapping into those and addressing those issues, that will increase student instructional time and engagement within the classroom.
I just have a couple questions. Thank you, ladies, for your presentation. There's two different reading programs that were indicated, Words Their Way and Wilson Reading. Do all students receive those services, or can you explain a little bit for me, please?
Do you want to talk about Words Their Way, 6th grade?
So Words Their Way is available for all 6th graders. That's something that we ELA teachers are using. There is the assessment beginning of the year. Everybody takes the same assessment. Then we go through, plug all the data into a spreadsheet, and we can figure out, just by analyzing where the errors are in a word feature, what level we should start working at to improve their spelling. So every 6th grader is receiving word study that's at their level for spelling feature, and then everyone's kind of looking at the words from a vocabulary angle as well. Like I know this week, one of the words that a group of kids is working on is dim. And so they knew dim, like, and is in a dimmer switch, but to tie it back to literature, if you have a character that's described as dim or dim-witted, you know, well, what does that mean? So that's for all 6th graders. And then our Wilson Reading section, do you want me to talk about that? Or do you want to? So Wilson Reading is a very strategic and specialized approach for students who have a documented disability when it comes to reading and spelling. And so it's a very scripted program, needs very small groups. So in my classroom, I can structure my day so that I'm hitting all students, 5-10 minutes. We're doing the lessons Monday through Friday. But the Wilson Reading program needs 30 to 35 minutes every day, structured with a special ed teacher, or a reading teacher usually.
Thank you for that clarification. I have just two more questions. The advisory committees or groups that you have, and if I misunderstood, I think Nancy, you said, if I misunderstood, please, I apologize. Did you say there's only certain students that are selected, or they're every student?
So at a faculty meeting, we actually put all the students on an index card and teachers kind of drafted their advisories. And what was great is our teachers were trying to grab those kids that they want to form more of a connection with. It works well in both ways, because sometimes some teachers might pick a student that they already know, but then they might also pick a student they don't know, which can be great if that student's not even on their team, because maybe they need that extra person outside of their team. But yeah, every student.
Okay, thank you. And my last question I had was, Christina, you had mentioned about addressing the absenteeism. And you did just mention at the very end that you were having meetings with parents. I know in the past, and I don't know if it was prior to COVID or during COVID, that you had staff members reaching out to parents or students who were chronically absent. Is that going to be done again? Or I mean, are you physically meeting with parents? What actual actions are you taking to try to decrease the number of absenteeisms?
Yeah, so admin is meeting with parents directly for some of our students who were already seem to begin struggling at this point in the year. We have students who already have 15 absences this year, and that's a problem. So those require a meeting right off the bat. One of the great things about advisory is because every staff member in the building has an advisory group, every teacher. The advisory groups are somewhere between like 14 and 16 students. So we're going to be working with advisors and sharing that data, and that the advisor will be reaching out to the student and parents directly at a smaller level. So maybe we noticed they've had 4 or 5 absences. So the advisor would reach out to the student, hey, I missed you, I know you weren't here, and making that kind of tier 1 intervention. After that, at tier 2, it's myself, our school nurse, as well as our school social worker and school psychologist who are engaging with the families and trying to put supports in place, more intense supports, to get students at school. And then at our 3rd tier, we do have an access support person who is a step pre-CPS, before we get CPS involved, who will go directly to families' houses when we fill out a referral and knock on their door and figure out what services families need, whether it's family-based counseling or mental health counseling through Helio, and she puts them in touch with the resources that they need.
Thank you all very much.
I just have one comment, one question. The one part about your presentation I absolutely loved is the part about goal setting, because anyone who knows me, I'm all about goals, and it's just something, kids are expected, or there's a lot of pressure on them to, do what they need to do and be successful at it, but when they are able to pick their own goal, and I love the idea of, emphasizing the little steps, so they always feel like they're achieving something instead of setting the big goal that's way up here, may not be attainable right away, and they kind of lose their focus. It's like thinking, I'm never going to get there. And I really like that you're teaching that so young. I can tell you probably the first time I probably realized what a goal was in 1st grade, and I ironically had a text exchange with my 1st grade teacher a couple weeks ago about that. I think it's very important because it can go not just in academics, but everything in their lives. So thank you for that. And also, just a question for your building goal number 3 for this year. In Ray, you have 2 grades going through. So I like what you did with the chronic absenteeism, showing what their absenteeism was in 5th grade and 6th grade. I know it's a little more challenging, but I'm wondering, it would be really interesting to see, because all the great strategies you're using, how those numbers are broken up between 6th and 7th grade. So next year when you come, we could see how those strategies have, helped improve those numbers by grade.
Yeah, absolutely. That's something I can work with Danielle on to get kind of the 5th grade numbers. Those weren't as accessible to me just because they're from the elementary buildings, but that's definitely something we can do for you.
And also, I know I appreciate the last minute adjustment you did to the presentation as well. It really helps us kind of connect the full cycle. So coming every year and just talking about your goals and not seeing the results of all the great work you're doing, I think getting into this cycle is going to be really helpful, and I appreciate the last minute adjustment.
Yeah, and I just wanted to reiterate on that, setting the new kind of bar here for, giving us what happened last year and then how you use that too. I think that's really helpful for us to see how last year's goals and accomplishments fed into this year's goals. So thank you for that, and hope to see that pattern continue. So.
I totally agree. I really appreciate it. I know I bombarded you with questions yesterday, and I'm just grateful.
It's great questions, get us thinking, and that's what we're here for.
Thank you, Sherelle, Nancy, Christina, and Megan, and I see Joe and Mike in the background there, as well as the rest of the Ray team for putting this presentation together. And I can assure the board, the next couple meetings, the principals are all set with the same type of format moving forward. We're going to move on to our next item, which is the annual fire safety report. And Rick is unfortunately not here today, but Kim is going to take over for Rick.
So we typically give this report every year because we do go through the fire inspection process annually. It's always a month sooner, so we're always looking at our buildings during a different time of year, whether it be summer or holiday season or whatnot. That's part of why this schedule is set up in that manner. So all of our buildings and any structures that we have are reviewed and looked at closely. And that happens with our safety officer from BOCES, along with our chief operations officer, and then obviously our head custodians as well are an integral part of that in our communication with the building principals and resolving issues. So there were a few items that were cited. There was nothing that was of major concern in regards to that list, so I'm not gonna read through every single item. A lot of these things are things that come up every year. Something's placed in front of a rescue window on accident and it needs to get moved. Extension cords, those type of things that we frequently are taking a look at and just reminding people. So there were no non-conformance issues and no issues that were of concern, but the non-conformance issues were things that were corrected immediately. We have to submit this to the state. The one thing I will point out is that we did have a small electrical box fire that occurred in Van Buren in April, and the nice thing with that is all of the safety measures that were in place worked. So it was contained within that box, there was very minimal damage, and there was no further action that we needed to do, other than, of course, we did the post-fire inspection process that we needed to follow. Any questions?
Thank you, Kim. So the last item, this will be quick, the enrollment beds update with projections. So I'm going to pull that report. In comparison to last year, just to give you an overall of where we stand as a district, last year we had 5,359 students in grades K through 12. This year, our overall enrollment, UPK through grade 12, is at 5,450 students. So we're up 91 students due to the addition of universal pre-K. As you can see at the top there, we have 179 universal pre-K students this year. If we were to look at the enrollment grades K through 12 comparison from last year to this year, we're actually down 88 students overall. So I just want to make that known to everyone, and certainly that has allowed us to increase with universal pre-K within the buildings, and we anticipate that obviously maintaining moving forward. Were there any questions? Most of the demographic percentages stayed the same, maybe a tenth or two off.
Were there any shifts in private school?
Not significant, no.
Okay. No.
So I would say we're healthy, we're maintaining enrollment, and certainly universal pre-K helped us this year as well. Questions? All right, and the last item, which is not on there, I know was highlighted by many of the board members with upcoming events. We just want to wish the athletic teams that are competing in the sectional contests and on their pursuit to state championship as well as the marching band. They'll be competing at the end of the month, Sunday, I believe, October 30th, and the New York State Field Band Championships, and we wish them well. Go Bees. Me again. All right, I gotta see. Textbook adoption. So we have a series of textbooks that are up for first reading. This continues our updates. Specifically, this one is for grade 4 This will appear on the next board meeting, the November 7th board meeting for approval. I know the board has access to these if there's anyone that needs a copy, as well as the textbook adoption forms, please let us know. The next book here on report C is again 4th grade ELA Social Studies. It's listed there. Stop me if I'm going too quickly. Report D, this is for 3rd grade ELA. Again, will appear on November 7th. And then E, again, 3rd grade ELA classes, there's the text listed. Are there any questions on any of the text before we move forward?
Not a question, but more of a comment. I've had the pleasure of reading these books with my daughter, and we've enjoyed them, and I just wanted to share that. They're really delightful and very profound in the messaging that they're trying to convey to readers. So I just wanted to share that with all of you.
Any other questions on any other books or comments before we move on to the policies for the first reading? Item F is the first reading of policies in the 5,000, 6,000, and 7,000 series. Does anyone have any questions about any of those?
I was just wondering if somebody from the policy committee give us a little background on that new one, the student removal. Is that, I assume that's new to the district. It's new.
That is 70, which one is that? I only have the numbers here.
7614, the student removal, use of timeout rooms, and I mean, is that something?
So that one is required by law now, and this was language that was sent to us by our attorneys and also with assistance from Rockland Alley Head of Special Education.
Jen or Tanya, maybe Joe, I wasn't at the last policy meeting, and I watched some of it, but in that policy 7614 for student removal, there was a question I thought about the extent of time that students, the max amount of time a student could be in that removal room. I don't think I'm saying it right. So where did that time frame of 120 minutes, 2 hours come up with? Because I think that's a little excessive, but I don't know. So if somebody could provide some background on that, please.
Guidelines certainly provided by legal. That does not mean that the district would implement that length of time. Certainly our goal is to get students back into the space as quickly, the traditional space as quickly as possible, and the special education department wanted that just as a maximum. It does not mean that we will utilize that. In fact, this protects the district and protects the students, but we hopefully have no intent of using these spaces. That's not what we're about, and we just need this to make sure that we're all covered as a district.
Thank you.
Are we all set with the policies for the first reading? So they'll be up for, to take action at the next Board of Education meeting. Moving on to new business. Item A, resolve that the Board of Education approve the resolution to accept the resignation of Board of Education member pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Tanya first. Second, Jeff. Any questions, Mr. Mattis? Thank you. Sent a resignation letter and he asked me to read it for everyone. It was addressed to our district clerk as per our policy. Per Baldwinsville Public School Board Policy 1240, I'm submitting my resignation as a member of the Board of Education effective immediately. This was also on October 8th. I forgot to say the date, my apologies. My decision to resign is not based solely on this past weekend's events. However, the catalyst needed to reinforce my decision. I've been away from the area frequently for work in recent months, taking many nights and weekends away from my family and affecting my ability to serve as an active board member. With the tremendous growth of my professional organization, I will not be able to devote the time necessary to help navigate the district forward as part of this 9-person board. The district will face many challenges in the near future due to the demonstrated lack of professional judgment of Superintendent Thompson's actions during the homecoming game. A community voice must be available with the necessary time and energy to assist in navigating these turbulent waters. Myself, my family, and the Board of Education stepping down now is the right move. These past 14 months have been an eye-opening experience. I've had a chance to see how the district functions and participates in addressing some of the many routine challenges and revolving leadership in the district over the last several years. I will forever be humbled by the Baldwinsville community's support for me and my decision to seek a position on the board. As I step away, I hope the board continues to focus on topics that matter the most, providing our educators with stable leadership in the district, educational pathways, and relevant experiences for our students to succeed beyond their time in the Baldwinsville Central School District. Not all of our students will pursue a path to a four-year college. Education is ever evolving. For our students to have the most enriching experience of their lives, our academic experience should reflect that. I wish you and my colleagues all the best. Regards, Frank Mattis. Frank contacted me about 4 weeks ago, giving me a heads up that this may be coming. If anyone were looking at the minutes, you'd notice that Frank has not been here last two board meetings and has spent most of his time across the country. And he really feels it's time to give someone else a seat at the table to help us with the challenges and all the decisions we have ahead of us. So does anyone else have any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Moving on to item B. Resolved that the Baldwinsville Marching Band travel to participate in the Kingston Marching Band Home Show in Kingston, New York, October 22nd to 23rd, pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Shelley first. Second, Jeff. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item C, resolved that the Baker News travel to participate in the All-American High School Film Festival in New York City, New York, October 21st through 24th, 2022, pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Jeff first.
Second.
Second, Tanya. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item D, resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of A Family is a Family is a Family by Sarah O'Leary to be used in grades K ELA classes pursuant to attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Shelley
Second.
first. Second, Tanya. Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item E, resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of Families, Families, Families by Suzanne Lang to be used in grade K social studies classes pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Jeff first. Shelley second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item F, resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of Islandborn by Junot Diaz to be used in grade 1 ELA classes pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Tanya first. Shelley second. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item G, resolved that the Board of Education approve the textbook adoption of Roller Coaster by Marla Frazee to be used in grade 1 ELA classes pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Sam first.
Second.
Second, Shelley. Any questions or discussion?
I just want to say the audio version of this particular book is fantastic, although I will have to disagree on how we respond when we're on roller coasters. I did not giggle. I did a lot of yelling, so I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Did your daughter enjoy it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Okay, awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. Item H, resolved that the Board of Education approve the disposal of surplus equipment and instructional materials pursuant to the attached. Can I have a motion, please? Jeff first.
Second.
Second, Tanya. Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We've now moved to the board roundtable portion of the agenda. Does anyone have anything that they'd like to discuss? Hopefully Lee makes it back soon. All right, we'll move on to the next. Resolved that the Board of Education enter into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person or corporation, or the medical, financial, or credit history of a particular person or corporation, or matters leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or corporation. Can I have a motion, please?
Move.
Shelley first,
Second.
second Jeff. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7-0. We'll take 5 minutes and then we will move over to the other room like last time to continue with executive session. Thank you, everyone.